G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and the aim of today's game is to dispel a whole bunch of fish keeping myths that I wish that I learned sooner. So hopefully it helps you out. Let's jump straight into the video. The first one is a really sad one, and one that crops up all the time, even from fish keepers that have kept fish for years and years, and that is that fish only grow to the size of the aquarium. It's just simply not true, and we see all the time these giant fish kind of sleepily lumbering around a tank, having an absolute terrible time of it. So if you're going to put a big old comet goldfish, an Oscar, an arowana, a red-tailed catfish in these tiny little boxes and expect it to work, it's just simply not the case. They're going to outwaste your filtration. Is that really a saying? I'm not sure, but they're going to create more than your tank can keep up with, that your ecosystem can keep up with. They're going to just have really poor quality of life, and overall just go with something else. There's so many options in the fish keeping hobby. There's great, vibrant, colorful, smaller fish that will really love that tank that you've got instead. Or if you do want to pick them up and you promise yourself that you'll upgrade in the future, make sure that you do it because it just happens all the time. Live bearer keepers will absolutely agree with me on this one. Now, the second myth is that fish only have a 3-second memory. But have you ever gone up to the usual corner that you feed your fish in and make this kind of motion, and then there's just an army of little swordtails ready for food? Well, how does that make sense if they can only remember the last 3 seconds? Well, in fact, there's scientific studies out there that prove that fish can remember for months at a time. So that's why they can remember where you feed. That's why they can remember who you are. And that's why sometimes you can get those water puppies coming up and greeting you just as your dog does to the door. The next one I've got a few times when I've let people know at work about my hobby, or just other people in my daily life, and they say, doesn't it get really expensive? Doesn't it get really sad having to replace the fish all the time? Because they think that fish only live for a couple of weeks. But the fact of the matter is if you keep healthy ecosystems and aquariums, you can have fish live for quite a long time, up to decades. Definitely in an old bristlenose video I've done, I keep getting people mentioning how they've got bristlenose that are over 10 years old, 12 years old, and so forth. So definitely you can have some really long-lived fish. Depends on the species, but even some of the smaller species, I've got a pea puffer over there that's 4 years old at this stage. So they're not something that you have to go out and get every couple of weeks. Similarly, if you keep and breed fish, you can have them for generations on end and even create more than you initially bought, which is one of the fantastic things that I love about this hobby. The next myth is a two-parter, and I've got heaps of examples to show you on this one. And it is that stuff like this, aquarium accumulate, which is a combination of sort of fish poo and waste and all that sort of good stuff, is going to kill your fish. So if you've kept a light enough stocked aquarium like this one, which just has a handful of swordtails in it, this amount of accumulate, whilst it might be a little bit unsightly, I get that, it's totally natural, and it's going to have heaps of little live foods in there. There's going to be some free fertilizer for the plants, and as long as it's not being accumulated at a rate that the ecosystem can't keep up with, then it's perfectly fine. That was also coupled with this stuff over here, of course, algae, and algae is going to have absolutely no ill effects on your fish whatsoever. What it can be is an indicator that maybe you've got too much nitrates, too much phosphorus, maybe it's time to add a little bit more plant matter or lower your light down, all those sorts of things. But in terms of your actual fish health, absolutely no problem whatsoever. In actual fact, a lot of times the fish are going to take cover in the algae, fry are going to take cover in the algae, and again, it's just going to harbor a great little colony of micro critters, which is going to be some natural live foods once again. So rather than be scared or fearful that these two things are going to have any ill effects for the health of your fish, take them as tools to teach yourself that maybe you need to increase your maintenance schedule, maybe you need to have some more plants or adjust in those kind of ways, but it's certainly going to have no ill effects on the health of your fish whatsoever. It also doesn't make you a worse fish keeper if you have either of those things, because those are both really valuable resources to learn again. So it's okay to be dealing with both of those things, and it's okay to be making adjustments, but what's not okay is letting either of them really get out of control. Another myth that might be confusing at first is that cleaning out your filter in tap water will kill all your fish. Now I gotta let you in on a little secret. I clean all my sponge filters just straight from the tap, and that's mainly out of laziness and because I've got one in the corner of the fish room that I figure I might as well use. But it's also with the knowledge that beneficial bacteria, which is what is keeping our aquarium cycle going, lives on absolutely every surface within the tank. So that's why you'll notice I have terracotta pots around the place, which are, you know, just little bacteria hotels, I guess we'll call. They're filled with gravel, maybe some aqua soil, whatever it is. Some of them used to be filled with plants before I put them in a bristlenose breeding aquarium. But most of all, they provide additional surface area for bacteria to live on. But even substrate, plants, anything whatsoever inside your tank is going to have bacteria on it. So I'm not really fussed if a little bit of tap water kills some bacteria that's on a sponge filter, because there's plenty more where that came from. And in time, after I put it back in the tank, sure, some bacteria will grow on that sponge filter again, and then it'll probably be time to clean it again, and I'll just go kill all that off as well. So if you've got 400 flower horns in a 60 centimeter aquarium with nothing but a sponge filter in it, probably don't clean that out in tap water. But if you've got a lightly stocked aquarium with plenty of other surfaces in there, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Strap yourselves in for the next one, because it might confuse some of you, or maybe you just don't realize this is the case until I mention it. And a lot of people think that a bigger filter means a healthier aquarium, which is just simply not the case. It doesn't matter if you have a hang-on back internal canister filter or anything else, sponge filter, that is 4 times the size or 25% the size on the smaller end. Doesn't matter what combination of sizes you have of those things, until you go ahead and clean them out, they're actually only contributing to water flow. So they might be pulling more particulates out of the water column, making your aquarium look cleaner, but as an entire ecosystem, until you remove any waste, they're absolutely all exactly the same in terms of what has accumulated in that water. So if having a canister filter, a tiny one versus a large one, means that it gets clogged up a little sooner, nudging you to do that maintenance a bit more regularly, then it could actually lead to having a healthier aquarium in that case. If you have a giant canister filter that only needs to be cleaned out once every 10 years, it means that the waste that's going into that canister filter is staying in the system for that same amount of time. So maybe some food for thought on that one. And a bigger filter doesn't always mean a healthier aquarium. When people find out that I'm a bit of a fish nerd, I often get the question that, you know, what should I get my kid as a nice cruisy pet, because they want a cat or a dog, but you know, I just know they're going to ignore it eventually. So I just want to get them a fish, you know, something we can put in the corner and never worry about again. And I just don't think that's true. Fish, I wouldn't classify them as a necessarily easy pet, because especially early days in that beginning phase, there's so much to learn. I don't discourage parents from introducing their kids to fish, and I have a nice little axolotl tank down here that my kids picked out the fish. They help me with feeding, they help me with maintenance sometimes, and it's a great learning experience. But I don't just send them off to fend for themselves with the wolves and do it all on their own. I use it as a learning experience, because it is a very science-based, it is a very complex hobby, and it is a very tricky thing to get right, I think. So I have the experience of other pets as well. I have a dog, I have chickens, and I would say at times both of those different pets are much easier than the aquariums. You can of course make aquarium keeping more easy, and I've spoken about that for years and years now, by stocking minimally, having plants and all those sorts of things that are going to mean that you don't have to spend large volumes of time every single week keeping everything alive. But there's always going to be maintenance required. There's usually going to be water changes, there's going to be feeding and all those sorts of things that you have with any pet. So aquariums are really no different to many other pets in that they're not just the easiest thing that you can get and forget. Whilst I'm mentioning other pets, I think it detours nicely into food, and this can also be regularly seen with cat food, dog food, bird food, and everything in between. And that is that all foods are created equally, and you should just pick the cheapest one because it's all calories at the end of the day, so it'll keep them alive and do its job. However, when it comes to super cheap aquarium fish, super cheap fish food, they're often full of fillers. There's none of that good protein and good ingredients that are going to show most vibrant coloration, most activity, most breeding behavior as well. So if those are the things that you want out of your pet, then I'd recommend going somewhere, you know, find the limit, of course. Don't send yourself broke by buying the most expensive food on the market, but also don't just buy Acme fish food in bulk. So whatever that limit is, so that you get a nice balance of healthy fish, and as well as that, the cheaper foods often have a lot of fillers which are going to gunk up your aquarium. There's going to be a lot of it uneaten, most likely, and there's going to be a lot of fillers that are going to cloud up your water and create a bit of an ammonia issue as well. So a lot of times the more, I'd say, the higher quality foods can feed out a lot cleaner, meaning that there's less work for you to do at the end of the day. It's going to save you time. So maybe that money is worth it. That's for you to decide, but all fish foods are definitely not equal. The next one, I think we've all walked past a conversation in a fish store where someone's saying, you know, I'm just going to grab these 10 Oscars. I don't have a tank set up right now. I've got the tank at home. It's my first aquarium, but you know, she'll be right because I can just do a fish in cycle. Fish in cycles, look, I'm not going to say that they're not accomplishable, but I just think by the people that are trying to accomplish them, it's probably not going to happen the way that you think that it will. The people that are successful with fish in cycles are people that have heaps of experience with aquariums, that have backup plans, that have other filter media that they can put in to seed the aquarium, that are smart enough to only put like one very small fish in there and feed sparingly whilst that cycle is established. They're not the people that are going to go out and get a school of fish immediately, dump half a tub of fish food in there and have a teeny tiny little filter that's never seen water before. It's not going to work the way that you think it will, and it's not worth trying. In the grand scheme of things, I hope that you're choosing to have this pet for a long period of time and enjoy it, and you're going to have a much better base from which to enjoy that by starting off the right way, and that's by giving it lots of time and learning the process before there's a fish involved, because you'll be far better off putting a fish into something that's already balanced rather than trying to adjust and figure it out on the run. So there you go, guys. Those are a few of the fish keeping myths that I've been reflecting on a little bit over the recent time, and hopefully those have helped you if you weren't familiar of those yet, or if you just needed a bit of confirmation on your own. If the video has helped you out, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Of course, feel welcome to send it on to your people beginning in the hobby. Might help them out too. And other than that, I've got some more videos right there for you to check out if you do enjoy my content. So thanks for watching. Happy fish keeping. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.